What is the latest on Severino? Is there any new update as far as?
No. The guys are just starting to arrive. Again, he checked out well yesterday. I will find out later today, if there are any tests planned, but not sure what's going to exactly happen.
Who else? In the back, Leaf.
Joe, back in September, I asked you about Tommy Canley, and you said that he's provided depth. But can you speak to the larger role that he's taken on in the bullpen in the postseason and your thoughts about that and his performance?
Well, it's been crucial to our success up until this point. And I look at a game where we lose 2-1. He kept it there, and he's done a tremendous job down the stretch here. The one thing that we weren't quite sure about him when we got him is how much we could use him multiple innings. It was not something he really did a lot in Chicago, and he was very successful in Chicago. And we were concerned if we took him out of that type of role, would it change who he was? It hasn't. Which is very big in the playoffs because some days you don't have certain relievers. I look at a day yesterday we didn't have Green, so Tommy kind of picked us up in that spot and did a tremendous job and didn't throw a ton of pitches, and again should be available tomorrow.
Mark, to your right, Joe.
Joe, I know this is the best of 7, so it's a little different, but what can you learn from your experience in the first round being 0-2, coming home now down 0-2?
Yeah, I think it should give our players confidence going into this. Yeah, I mean, we're facing a very good team, and we know, that we have not done a lot offensively, but we have pitched really well too. And if we continue to do that, I mean, you're going to have a shot. And understand that we were down 2-0 to a team that won 102 games, and we're able to come back. So just go out and do whatever it takes to win a game tomorrow and see where you're at.
Also, there have been a lot of comparisons between this team and the 96 team that you were on. Do you see similarities between those two teams? And that 96 team came back from 0-2 in a best of 7 going on the road.
Yeah.
But what was it about that team that allowed you to have that kind of success in that situation? And what is it about this team you see that might be similar to them?
I think when you look at that team, there were a lot of young players that played important roles, mostly Mariano and Derek. Our bullpen was really, really good back then. Mariano kind of, would throw 2 or 3 innings on certain nights and was able to shut the opponent down. There were veteran players that played very well. We faced a very good team in the Atlanta Braves and didn't do much the first 2 games. The first game we got hammered. And we were able to fight back. And it was the message then was go win 1 game and let's see where we're at. And that's the same message.
To your right, Joe. Fred.
Joe, just with Betances, at this point, realistically, what do you expect out of him?
I expect him to compete and pitch at a high level when I call upon him. And for us to win, I'm going to say it again, he's going to play an important role. And you look at the 3 innings that he threw in the last series. The first night he threw really well. The second night he threw really well. He struggled a little bit here the last outing, but I mean he's been through that before and bounced back, so his name's going to be called upon.
And just lastly, do you anticipate any kind of a lineup change with some guys struggling?
No, I don't. I'm going to stick with it. We're 1 or 2 hits away from maybe being 1-1 or 2-0, so I don't see many changes.
Back middle, Joe.
Joe, to build off, again, being down 2-0 right now, do you think that this is something that could catch up with the guys, or is something that they'll just continue to embrace, that mindset with the backs up against the wall?
I think that we've been through enough this year that there's no panic. There were times during the season where we were 15 games over and we fell to 4 games over, and you come out of the break and you lose a really tough one to Boston. We bounce back and win the next day, and guys started to understand that you have to be resilient in this game. It's just part of the game. You're going to have really tough losses, and you got to learn to bounce back. And obviously, would you rather be 1-1 or 2-0 the other way? Yeah, but I don't think there's any panic in their room, and they're going to just go out and do what they do and see where the chips fall.
And then also for you, not having a workout today, do you look at this as a reset for the guys, or what do you hope they're getting out of?
Just physical rest, I think, is the important. And I think that, this is, a lot of times you work out on the road because it's not a field that you're on 81 times a year. we know what our park presents. We know the angles. We know all that. We know the infield. So I think it's a physical and mental rest, which I think guys can use at this time.
To your left, Joe.
So just with Sanchez and Judge, kind of the struggles they're having at the plate, do you think for guys when it's their first time in the postseason, do you think it makes it all more challenging for those guys to be going through this, trying to fight their way out of it?
I think it can. I'm not so sure I necessarily feel it with these two guys. I mean, there's been a lot of great hitters that have struggled their first year in the postseason, their second year in the postseason, the third year in the postseason, and then they have a big postseason. I think if a guy goes at 2 for 20 during the regular season, you don't make much of it. It's just part of the ups and downs of being a hitter and being productive and how careful they pitch to you. So I think it's, and the other thing is we don't have a ton of familiarity with these pitchers that we're facing. In our division we do, and we're used to it. And some of that is part of being young. You don't have 20 at bats against the guy. You just don't. So I feel good about him. We've counted on them all year. We believe in them, and I think they're going to come out of it.
Just along those same lines, I mean, you mentioned not having the experience, both guys, the strikeout numbers in the postseason. I mean, is that something you look at the guys they're going against, or is there anything in their at-bats you're noticing?
Well, I think part of it is the guys they're going against. I think they've made a lot of good pitches. Part of it is, you can get a little off sometimes, the bottom line. And, when I look at Aaron's at-bats, I don't think he hasn't continued to be patient. I think Gary's chased a little bit more but Gary's a guy that we know that can really, really turn around quick and get locked in, and I feel good about that.
Ron, to your right, Joe.
Are you troubled at all by all the strikeouts offensively in the first two games?
No, we have struck out during the course of the season, too. That's part of who we are right now. We walk, we're patient, and we hit home runs and we strike out. I've had years that, said that we haven't hit enough home runs, that we've hit too many home runs. It's just part of who we are as a club, and we're going to strike out some. But I like the patience. I like the grittiness of our hitters. I like how they grind out at bats, and we'll figure it out.
Take a couple more, Russ, in the middle, Joe.
Joe, you're a team of sluggers, bangers.
Yeah.
And when you're scratching for runs, you're not a small ball team.
No.
Is that a problem when you're looking to scratch for runs, which was the case in the past two games?
Well, I think you could look at it as a problem. I don't necessarily think so. I think we're capable of doing things. I think we're capable of running. We have certain guys that can run on our team. We have guys that go from first to third. We just haven't got a lot of hits. So small ball really hasn't presented itself for us because we haven't had a lot of base runners. But I look on the other side, they haven't either. They've just had maybe a couple more hits in key situations than we've had. We've had some opportunities. We've hit some balls hard with guys on, and I thought our bats against Keuchel were better the second time through. They made some really good defensive plays. So I just think that when you get to this point in the season, there really is a lot of good pitching, or teams wouldn't be there. And, you hope that someone makes a mistake. I thought Keuchel threw as good a game as he's thrown all year, and I think Verlander did too. And that's part of it too. So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Steve, to your right, to your left, Joe.
Joe, can you talk about going to CC in a must game here?
Yeah, well, he's been that guy that we've kind of relied on. And that the situation hasn't been too big for him. But again, I look at what the other two guys have done, and they've pitched really well too. So to me, it's CC giving us a good 5 or 6 innings and us scoring a few more runs.
To your right, Joe.
Joe, with the production you've gotten at DH, have you given any consideration to a guy like Ron Torres?
No, it's not something he's accustomed to doing. Toe has been a guy that when he's had success, it's been consistent at bats and he's played a lot. So, no, we'll continue to DH you guys. We are.
Take 2 more, Fred and Mark.
Joe, just Carl's career. What do you see in a 22-year-old guy?
He's a great young player that's very mature at his age when it comes to all facets of the game. You think about a 22-year-old kid hitting the middle of the lineup, playing shortstop. on a team that won 101 games, drove in basically 90 runs, and I don't know, he missed 6 weeks maybe, you know? I mean, he's a pretty incredible player.
Mark.
Joe, you've pulled CC early in the past when you've seen signs of trouble. Do you treat tomorrow like almost an elimination game in that it's, I know it's not, but going down to a 3 obviously would be bad.
Yeah.
And also playing your first three games in a row, do you have to handle the bullpen differently knowing you don't have an off day in the next 3?
Well, I think you maybe handled a little bit different, and some other guys could play some key roles here. But, you know, again, CC, I mean, we know that it's a fine line and you have to watch the at-bats, and we'll continue to do it the same way. I'm not going to change my philosophy on him. It's kind of what's worked all year, and it keeps him going too as well. So we'll continue to do the same thing.